This week's lecture is from Terry Christian. Terry is better known for being a broadcaster, a journalist and a presenter, most famously for the Channel 4 TV series of the early 90s called The Word, which was a youth music programme which did some pretty bizarre things. I'll let you find out more details on The Word for yourself. Anyway, this week Terry talks about the Manchester music scene, but the history of the Manchester music scene. So we'll go from the 1950s all the way up till 1979. So Terry charts the music scene through the Hollies, Herman's Hermits, all the way up to the punk scene, and especially when punk broke, when the Sex Pistols played the Free Trade Hall in Manchester. Terry follows on from this to talk about the Buzzcocks and ends with the start and formation of Factory Records in Manchester. Okay, the next clip is a short overview of Terry's lecture, and also there is an audio recording of this lecture available on SoundCloud and as a link.
I think again the first lecture was just to let them know how big Manchester's always been as a music city, you know, from like the folk singer and the folk scene with Ewan MacColl, who wrote Dirty Old Town, and also what became a Grammy Award-winning song when Roberta Flack had a hit with it in 1972, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, to the whole Manchester invasion of the USA in 1965, when Herman's Hermits, who were like the take that of the day, outsold the Beatles in the USA. Something ridiculous, like 18 million records in the space of a year. And then there was like 6 solid weeks in the US Billboard charts from April to June of 65, where Manchester bands were #1 in the US Billboard charts. And 1 week in April of 1965, where Manchester bands were positioned numbers 1, 2 and 3 in the US Billboard charts. That will never ever happen again. But that's how big Manchester was. And then about how Manchester then went from that pop scene onto an emerging progressive rock scene, with Graham Nash leaving the Hollies to go and work with Neil Young, David Crosby and Stephen Stills in Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. The Mockingbirds with Graham Gouldman then becoming 10cc, marrying up with Eric Stewart out of the Mindbenders and forming 10cc, who became one of the great prog rock type pop bands of the 70s. And then the fact that 10cc, with all their money, invested it in Manchester by building a world-class recording studios here, Strawberry Studios, which then fed into the local Manchester scene and meant that we could retain, you know, throughout punk and then post-punk with Joy Division and Factory Records, we then had a world-class recording studio on our doorstep, so there was no need to go cap in hand to London. We could do everything ourselves up here. Never happened in any other city in the UK outside of London, only here in Manchester. And we've had a bigger music scene, and a music scene that's sustained itself now for like 35 years, and that is absolutely unique in world music for any city.